Hi, folks. This is JC, the sicko. I uh, I haven't been sick for a while, and I didn't want to miss out on anything, so I went down and got a flu shot, and sure enough, it worked perfectly. Now I have the flu, or maybe just a bad cold. I don't know. It left me a little bit grumpy, and I'm not able to do any singing for a while. But I don't think a little bit of talking is going to hurt anything. So I'm going to go into this. I was just sitting here thinking about myself, my past, my future, and I don't know why this came into my mind, but it occurred to me that I haven't always been James Alexander. There was a time when I was someone else. I suppose maybe a lot of us were. We just don't realize it. And I didn't realize it here until this came today. And all of a sudden, I remembered this little experience I had before I was James Alexander. And so, without further ado, I'll go into it. I wrote it all down, so I'll read it off, and that way I won't ramble quite as much as I usually do. So I'll start now. Many years ago, when I was someone else, I had an interesting experience. I was Nbota Tunu, a young man in a Central African country. I worked in the fields harvesting whatever was ready to be picked. For now, it was the mango fruit, a tree which had been brought to Africa some years back and had thrived here. The mango trees here were planted in with the natural trees and were doing very well. I mean, they didn't go in and clear all the old trees out and make an orchard. They planted them in wherever there was room for them to preserve the old trees too. Um, Mango trees can grow up to 100 or more feet tall. They're very tall with a fruit bearing limbs many feet above the ground level. Now they go up, there's a slender trunk and they go way up, and then the limbs have all come out in a bulbous manner like this and make a big round circle, and all the mango is in within that part of it. But it's very high above the ground, most of them. Now on this day I was dressed in my usual garb, which consists of a loincloth and a pair of leather sandals and a leather thong that tied my long hair back out of my face. Now I don't have, my hair's not that long and I don't have the thong, so I just chose to use one of these Willie Nelson hankies to keep my hair back. I heard monkeys chattering far above the ground. Occasionally a mango would fall to the ground and a monkey's head would pop into view. While the monkeys ate some of the fruit, it wasn't enough to consider doing anything about. I carried a long stick and a net, the stick to shake the mangoes loose and the net to catch them when they fall, before they hit the ground and were maybe bruised. I had squeezed in between a mango tree and another tree to get in a good position to harvest the fruit. I turned away from the tree for a second and heard a quick, very loud, high-pitched screech and a softer, much higher whine, then a thud as a very small monkey body hit the ground. It landed only about 10 feet from me, and I looked at the small, very young baby monkey lying there on the ground. It was very small and soft looking, and it lay very still. I walked over to it, and immediately a grown mother clambered down the tree trunk, screeching as it came. I was already at the baby's body, and now I saw Mama's teeth bared, ready to do battle to protect her baby. I reached out and touched the baby. It didn't move. Mama went wild. She scampered up and down the tree, screeching and baring her teeth at me. I wondered if she would attack me. She came within 3 feet of me, and I began picking the little body up. I was squatting on my heels, just holding the baby, and the mother monkey raced in at me, screaming at me and baring her teeth. She came within an inch of my hands that were holding the baby, and she reached out with her right hand and she slapped my hand, just a little slap, nothing that would be dangerous. And she did it once more. Then she retreated to a distance of 10 feet or so and sat there and just watched me. I gently examined the baby and saw it was alive. I decided if I left it there, it might die. I would take it home and nurse it back to health. The mother followed me all the way to my hut and sat a ways off when I went inside the hut. I kept the baby there for a week. It woke up at the end of the first day, but was very weak. I fed it with an eyedropper using goat's milk. I left it in a cage when I went to work every day at the mango grove. The mother was there every morning and every night when I came back. I could hear her fussing about just outside my door. Each day I exercised the baby's tiny arms, gently pulling them out and letting it pull them back in, pulling them out, letting it pull it back in. It showed no fear of me at all. While I was home, I let it out of the cage to roam around the inside of the hut and gain strength. After a week, I determined it was well enough to be returned to its mother. So when I left for work that day, I took it with me. The mother was there as usual, and she screamed at me when she saw the baby. To stop her screaming, I put the tiny baby on the ground and I walked a ways away from it. Mama looked at me, perhaps wondering what I meant to do. Then, without any more ado, she rushed in and gathered her baby up and headed back to the mango grove. When I arrived there, I briefly saw the mother cradling the baby with one arm and moving about in the tree. After looking me over a bit, she went into the thick top of the tree and disappeared from sight. I never saw her or the baby again. It had been a very interesting week. A few weeks later, as I was waking from my night's sleep, I heard a very soft rustling at my door. I didn't think much about it. It was so quiet, so I didn't bother to check on the sound. I had my morning meal of mango meat, strong brewed green tea, and toasted bread that I made from scratch. The bread was spiced with coconut juice, much like buttering bread for toast, and I toasted it over the open fire. It was delicious. Then I started out the door to go to work at the same mango grove. As I stepped out the door, my foot bumped against something. I looked down, and there, side by side and directly in front of the door, were 3 ripe mangoes. I immediately scanned the area for whomever might have left them there, but I saw no one. But I knew who had left them there. I guess even in the animal world, a good deed is well worth rewarding. That day I had received my reward, and I must say, I've never felt more appreciated than that morning when a doting mother showed me her appreciation for the tender care of her child. What a wonderful day that was, one I will never forget, even if someday I appear as yet someone else, someone other than Nbota, Tunu, or James Alexander. Thank you. This is JC. See you down the road if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise.